Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2. You're all doomed. 3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing with
4. 5. 6.
'Must be my imagination.
7.
Can I help you? Hello?
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Hey everybody, Dave Brown here along with my good friend Brian Emmenheiser, aka South Jersey Jason. We have brought back Choose View and Review, and this month's topic, or I should say films of choice, were summertime slashers. And Brian, I think I picked some of the heavy hitters and some of the unknowns. I think I chose Sleepaway Camp, the original Friday the 13th, Blood Beach, The Burning. I think there was Sleepaway Camp. Yeah. And then Blood Beach was kind of like one I just threw in there. It was like a guilty pleasure of mine.
And the only cool thing about it is probably the cover. Because I remember seeing the cover like going to the video store. Yeah, and I'd never watched it.
The tagline was the best. Is like the water is the safest place to be if you get across the beach.
Yeah. You know, and I felt the only person I felt only thing I felt bad for was Piper. I think the dog's name was. You know, but that was just great.
There wasn't nothing taken away from Jaws there. I mean, wasn't it Pippet? Was the dog?
I think the dog's name was Piper, maybe. But yeah, I mean, same premise. I mean, you have a harbor patrol guy, and then you have the cops. But I think like they don't want to close the beach because it's like summer season and.
Well, the city wasn't paying enough to help. They weren't getting the additional support, the additional funds. What's his name was the chief of police from
John Saxon. Yeah. Now, okay, I know from reading the plot, we don't see the creature until the very end. What did the creature look like? Do you remember?
It's really bad. It's worm-like, and then the head itself really looks like a flower that opens up. And it's got some teeth in it, but it's very. And I remember reading. I think they said in I think the Asian market or the Chinese or the Japanese market, they actually gave an explanation. I think in the opening scene, it's like aliens dropping it off on the beach.
That would have been kind of cool. Yeah. Probably would have piqued my interest a little bit more.
I think I really feel like this was your first Tremors movie. You know, in a sense. I mean, I love Tremors. That was one of my favorites. It was so corny and campy. It was good. Uh, but yeah, so yeah, it came down to the two, the original Friday the 13th and Blood Beach, and it was neck and neck for a little while there, and then all of a sudden, Friday the 13th OG blew it out of the water, I think by 2 or 3 votes, and here we are.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, this should be an easy review. We pretty much know it by heart, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now you didn't see this at drive-in. It was part 2 and 3, correct?
No, it was I was too young to see the OG,
Okay.
but I saw part 2 and the OG in the theater.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it was a drive-in, as I've mentioned before, at Frank's Theater, I believe it was. And yeah, it was the opening for Friday the 13th Part 2, and they threw in the OG, which was great because back then you could watch 2-3 movies at a drive-in in an evening, you know.
And that's what
so-
we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how history repeats itself. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a good time. And now word is Adrian King is coming, and so is Amy Steele.
Yeah, they'll be there on night 2. So they'll be
That's
there.
Friday.
Yeah, they'll be there for part 2, 3, and 4. You're going Thursday and Friday with me. I'm going Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday, it's a school night, so I don't feel like being out late. I mean,
Yeah,
going on Thursday is going to be late for me because we won't be back until like 11, and I got to wake up at 5:30. So
Yeah, I think I know I'm going to have to take a PTO that day, or that at least Thursday and Friday to drive up there. So I have some days accrued. So yeah, it'll be a good time. I haven't seen a drive-in in a long time, to see both of those films. I mean, and those are my 2 favorite Fridays.
yeah.
2 followed by 1. I mean, it's out of order, but when I watch them in order. But if I have to choose some of the favorites from the franchise, it's 2 OG and 4.
Yeah. The only Friday like OGs that I've seen replay in the theater is the first one. So it's gonna be really cool to see, you know, my favorites 1 through 4 on the big screen. Like my very first Friday wasn't until Jason Goes to Hell, so it'll be really cool to see him in 35 millimeter.
I forgot you're a youngling.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be 45 this year. Holy shit. So yeah, so let's dive into this. This is the 44th anniversary of Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Next year, as we all know, is the 45th. So it's getting up there to that 50-year milestone, which is, you know, it's incredible, and it's still, in the fans' eyes, still going strong. The, you know, the creators, mainly, I think Sean Cunningham, could give 2 craps, but you know,
Yeah.
that's my opinion. But it's awesome because, I mean, Halloween is what. Well, that's not 50 years yet, right? No.
It's pretty close because that's
Yeah.
a lot of the
2029 will be 50 years. Texas Chainsaw just hit the 50-year mark, so it's like it's just it's an incredible feeling because, you know, like when I was young, like I remember watching Universal monster movies in the 80s, and they were hitting that 50-year mark.
Yeah.
And now it's like the movies that were created in my generation are getting pretty up there now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and then the great thing about it is, I think it's personal for both of us because it was filmed in New Jersey, and we're both Jersey boys.
Yeah.
You know, I it's funny. It's one of those things you don't realize a film is filmed where it is till later down the line, because when you watch those movies as a kid, you don't dive into like the you know, the good stuff. Where was it filmed and who the actors were? I think it wasn't until I hit my mid-teens that I was like, I started looking more information up about the OG film, and it's like, oh my god, it's filmed in New Jersey up north because we're down south, and like, you know, it was just shocked to hear that the campground was still there, and you know, and Blairstown, New Jersey. And I'm like, you know, so many great films have, like your slashers, have come out of New Jersey. You know,
yeah, or had roots in Jersey, such as like Deborah Hill being from Haddonfield, I would say Jersey and Pennsylvania. I
Yeah.
look at like Night of Living Dead. East
Yeah.
Coast was where it was at. But yeah, same with me. Like as I got a little older and like on Enos's truck, I forget what the name of the town was, but I saw New Jersey. And then when I'm watching the credits, oh, Blairstown, wonder where that's at.
I think his truck was Hope, wasn't it? Hope.
It might have been. I would have to go back and actually rewatch it. But I remember breaking out the old road atlas to see where like Blairstown was.
And it
for all
seems so far away when you're a kid. You're like, oh my God, I'll never go that far.
Yeah. And it wasn't.
I do that drive daily and miles twice a day.
It wasn't until 2000, I think 11, and when I went to Blairstown for the first time, and Main Street wasn't as bumping as it was then. It pretty much was how I looked when Annie was walking down the street, just barren. I mean, pretty much it kind of still looks the same as far as the structures of the buildings for the most part. Except with the exception of the remodeling of the one house by Blair Academy. But it's just cool for a famous movie like that to be filmed, an hour from me. Now it's an hour. Before it was like 3 hours. It's just a cool feeling, and it's such a quaint town, and everyone that I've met there is very nice. And especially like on Friday 13th, like I think they see what the fans are. They're not these weirdos wearing all black and white faces. It's tourist income for them, like in Jaws. That's like a Friday 13th weekend is a very lucrative weekend for them.
Definitely. I think I didn't get up to Blairstown like yourself till I was well into my let me think, it's 2024. It had to be 2016, 2017.
Okay.
And I had gotten up there, and that it was obviously a lot easier with GPS, and you didn't have to pull out a map anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting up there, and it looked a lot like areas that we grew up with down near Batstow, and the quaint little towns. And I was like, there was a lot of similarities. And I remember going to find the campground and finding it, and it was February. And I think I had gone up there with somebody I was dating at the time because I had cabin fever, and the snow cleared out, and I'm like, I got to take a road trip. And I had gotten to the campground, and this was before, like, I think it really flew off the map with the tours and the campground visits. And I actually, I just walked in on a February day, and I walked through. I guess the first half of the portion, I didn't go too deep past the lake, but I went in for 45 minutes. And that was the first time I visited the campground, which was, I guess considered illegal today because, pretty tight with not letting people in there unless you have a guided tour or if you are a Boy Scout.
And I think right around that time is when they started doing the tours. Around that time, and they only did it like once a year, and it was like a big thing back then. Doing it now, it's like they do it spring, summer, and fall. And I think it'd be cool to go back there again with you, but to actually so you can see like the archery range and all that.
Yeah. Like the last year when we went, I can't believe it's been over a year now.
I know.
We just were in the basic areas of the campground. I wanted to see the archery range and explore a little bit more. I mean, it was great. I had a great time, but I would like to go back. I definitely would like to do a fall one when the leaves are changing.
Yeah. Same here.
That would be nice. So we'll see. Maybe we'll line that up and we'll go to the OG campground. We're in Blairstown. At least I am during the summer months. I at least get up there once a month to go fishing with my daughter, and we have breakfast at the diner, and Gary, you'll get lucky, you'll see Gary the owner of the diner, which we've friended, or and but I think he's more in Florida now.
Yeah.
During
Yeah. Yeah, he's enjoying that retired life, but Mike's there Monday through Friday, and when there's a Friday 13th, and Friday 13th will be in September, and we got Ari Lehman coming, and it's killing me because I need people who are asking what time's he going to be there? Is there going to be a cost to the concert? And I've been talking with Ari off and on, and I got his prices, what he charges for the autograph, which is like $40 for a combo. So, but I'm trying to get two people to come. One, Ron Gann, and then the other is Bobby Heckman, who did Victim No More. He is going to be launching his new campaign for Loose Ends, the follow-up to Victim No More.
Yeah.
And I think he's gonna. I said, well, if you want to bring a couple of the actors, just to help promote. So I think he might be bringing the guy who played his Jason.
Nice.
And I said, I'll wear my Part 7. I got a sack head. I just got to weather up a little bit more. He said, well, I'll let you wear the one that you wore in the movie. I was like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty genuine guy. I've been chatting with him.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy.
With what's going on with my story with Pamela, and he seems intrigued with my story as well. And his first film did really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was only a 20-minute flick, and he did well for those 20 minutes.
Oh my God, yeah. So second one's coming, and good for him. And I think I saw James Sweet is doing.
That shocked me. So. I'm
more and more of us are waking up again, because even though the lawsuit is done, we're not going to get a film anytime soon.
I think what also ignited it too was the Pamela getting thrown to the back burner. I'm sorry, Crystal Lake, getting thrown to the back burner. So I thought James did a really good job on his first film. Jason Rising. I enjoyed it. And
he's a genuine guy.
Very, very nice guy. At the Minicon I did a couple years ago, he donated like a box load of merch to give away for raffles and whatnot. And shout out to Horror Fan Films on Instagram. They had shared Seasons of the Huntsman. I tagged you in it.
I'm so not on Instagram.
They found it on it's a Instagram page for fan films in the horror genre. And I forget how I came across. I think he started following me, and then like the next day he had shared Seasons of the Huntsman. I'm like, oh, well, thanks for watching. He enjoyed it. I said that was you and I did that together, and look for his name was Jason. So he watched that, and he shared it on his Instagram account and tagged Jason and everything.
Who is this? Who is it?
I don't know. I'll send you his profile.
Yeah. Is he a reviewer? Is he a film reviewer?
He's I think he's like a horror fan film reviewer. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Huntsman.
Yeah.
Seems like ancient history now.
Well, it's funny. Came on my memories. We were in Blairstown. When did we do that? 2020? Yeah, 2020. It came on my memories. We were in Blairstown shooting like the opening scene. Remember that on that Sunday?
That didn't work out very well. And then we had to remake everything.
Yeah. But you know what? I enjoyed it for what it was, and it's a shame we couldn't do more, but it was a great experience.
The concept was cool to do all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
It was like I think it was at a lull where I was getting bored, and I fitted in during we couldn't do his name was Jason, so I threw that in there. But it was fun to do it, and the original concept, like I said, was to do all 4 seasons, and all we did was summer. But it would have been fun to see different eras, different Jasons, and different seasons, for sure.
Who knows? Maybe we could do it and touch it again in a couple of years or something.
Yeah. You never know. You get the bug. I mean, I It's funny with this new story I'm doing it with the Pamela Voorhees story. It's it's hard to get the likes and the following for it, just because every time I do share it, it's like you hear the negative nannies like we don't want Pam, we want Jason. We don't want Pam, we want Jason.
I think what would really entice people is maybe doing some sort of teaser trailer.
Yeah, me and Mr. West talked about that this weekend, doing a promo trailer.
Okay.
Something with it's just her, and kind of doing it in a satire way. I was thinking, something fun and very tongue in cheek, with certain music. Because this film is so long, it would be broken down into 4 segments.
Yeah.
We would like to release one a year, starting off in the 40s, as we know when Jason was born. And, it's just the money that's going to be involved, especially during the 40s, with the vintage vehicles, the vintage cars, the vintage interiors, the vintage propping. It's going to be costly. And the film itself is probably going to run about an hour for
each segment.
Well, this one for sure, definitely an hour. Yeah. Okay. It would lead right up to Jason's birth,
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And from there, it would go, we would skip a few generations, not too much. We would go probably into mid 50s up, early to mid 50s, and then move closer to the OG film, And I've incorporated a very cool story based on the Curse of Crystal Lake, which dates back to the 1600s.
Okay. Nice.
So it's kind of spooky.
Stay tuned, everyone. All right. Well, speaking of the events leading up to Friday the 13th, let's get into our review. So, this was filmed in '79, and basically it was Sean Cunningham took basically a gamble, created a logo, put it in like the Village Voice or whatever the local.
Yeah, he only had a title. That's all.
Yeah.
He knew that Friday the 13th would scare as a selly movie, sell as a scary movie.
Yeah, and he hired Victor Miller to write it, and they started filming. They finished filming in the fall of '79 and was released in '80. And so it opens up almost like Alfred Hitchcockian, like voyeuristic. I just love the intro. I was speaking of intro, so I had sent you some videos. I was playing the it's not Waxworks, I think it's Mondo vinyl. And they actually have the soundtrack, but then they also have some dialogue too. So like when Annie goes to the diner. Huh?
This is Mondo Records.
Yeah. I actually have Harry Manfredini signed it for me. It has dialogue from the movie. So like when Annie asks for directions, Crazy Ralph, Officer Dorf, and then when we first meet Betsy Palmer, it was really cool, so full soundtrack.
You have to play that for me when I come visit.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like I had to get a new record player because my other one took a crap. So I listened to that one, and then Waxwork re-released 3 through 8. So I listened to 3 yesterday, and I see, I don't remember a lot of the music from 3. I'm like, is this the video game? So I don't know if they put stuff from the video game in there, but it sounded like identical to like the video game.
He was on board for the video game,
right?
And because I saw a lot of behind the scenes when that was being produced. Him and Sean were together, and I think they used Kane for some of the scenes for the imagery. So it might be some of that may have been added and used.
So getting back to Friday the 13th. So it's opening up, and basically it's just different shots of the camp. I just love like the wildlife they put in there. That one whatever that bird is.
It's almost like I think a loon.
Loon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're found in New Jersey, by the way.
this person is going into the cabin, so we see the kids are sleeping, and then it goes into the camp counselors are singing Hallelujah down by the river. And then we're first introduced to Billy and Claudette, and they're gonna go and get frisky. Now, this one I don't always know the answer to, but were they weren't the camp counselors? Some people say they got killed because they were the camp counselors.
The idea was it was the year before Jason drowned, that opening segment. So Jason had come and gone already.
Yeah.
And my understanding was they were brought back to work, even though to work the next year in the campground, and she took vengeance. She took vengeance on those two who were actually supposed to be watching Jason.
Right.
That she returned. I think that's what put her over the edge, knowing that they came back to work and they opened the campground. Despite she wanted to obviously have it closed down forever, because of the tragedy, and I guess she was looking out for the other kids as well at that time.
Yep.
My understanding, I thought Claudette and Millie, I thought they were the OG, ones that were watching.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I always I mean, it was never, I don't know in the novel if it ever says it, I always assumed. But Billy gets the knife to the gut, and then Claudette kind of has like it freeze frames, but the behind the scenes photos of her getting killed was
cool. I
think
she had her throat slashed.
Yeah. And it's sad because the guy who played Billy, he actually ended up dying in an automobile accident the next year. Claudette was off the grid up until last year, so now she's doing the con scene, which is cool.
And she looks great.
She does, yeah, she does. So then I love the whiteout too. That's my favorite of the films, like the whiteout.
Fade out, yeah.
And then it's so cool. Like, and you see the first time the logo and like the glass breaks because it's bad luck, And then we're introduced to the Victor Miller, soundtrack, the opening titles, and then our next stop is our red herring, who we again Alfred Hitchcockian. You think Annie might be the final girl, just like how Janet Leigh was in Psycho. So we got a fake out with that. And that's, we're introduced to Blairstown for the first time. And, her first line was, "Hey, girl, how far is it to Camp Crystal Lake?" Or, I mean, like, hey, excuse me, hey, boy, or whatever. And he moans. And then, she's walking down Main Street. And then we got her movie magic because she ends up in Hope and goes into the cafe. And, I like telling people the one story that I heard on the trolley tour. Everyone in that scene were like actors or extras except for one guy, and it's the guy at the end of the counter. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave. Yes. So when I tell people that story, they're like, "Are you kidding me?" That's that's what I was told on the trolley tour.
He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere." And he did well. Like he seemed believable.
Yeah. So so then we're introduced to everyone's favorite truck driver, Enos, and
the old booty,
the boot scoop. Are all the counselors going to be as pretty as you? I don't know. But as they're walking,
that's what was great about this movie. It was like it could have been anyone.
Yeah.
As the movie unfolded and getting a feel for each and every character, it could have been Enos. It could have been a lot of you say it could have been the woman in the cafe that said, they're opening up that campground again. What was her name? I forget.
I don't think we ever know her name, but Sandy is our diner waitress. But
a lot of red herrings in this film.
Yeah, and I have to say, for an 80s slasher like that, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, with these are like the only films that really did good with the character development, like in their earlier ones, incarnations. I would say, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 had great character development, but then after that, of course, you don't really care because you're rooting for Jason, but you could relate to any of these counselors, like, I mean, I was probably the Ned character, you were probably Kevin Bacon, so
Could be. I gotta say he was my first favorite kill in the series. When it comes to kills, I just thought that was mind blowing to see that arrow going through his neck.
And it's so funny because he doesn't talk about Friday the 13th, but like a month or two ago, he did a TikTok with his family where he's taking a nap, and I think it's it's Kira, his wife, and I know his daughter, and maybe his son. They like shoot fake arrows at him while he's sleeping, and he wakes up from a dream. He's like, "Don't do that," which I thought was kind of cool.
I think these may have warmed up to it a little bit, but in the beginning, I think it was like one of those films. It was to pay the rent.
Yeah.
With most of them, even Betsy Palmer, she didn't think anything of it. She would needed to buy a new car with the funds. That's why, she wasn't working anymore. I think her big career at that time, before that, was a game show.
She did a couple of game shows, yeah. And she was a looker in her early years too. Very beautiful. But again, like she was only like, it's funny because I think she was 49 when she made the movie, but I don't know what it was, but people in that generation, the baby boomers, look a hell of a lot older.
A lot of it was they smoke like chimneys and they drank like, it aged a lot of them really, really fast. Compared to today where everybody's a lot more health conscious about what they're putting in their body.
Like Brad Pitt, I think, just turned 60, and there's photos of him, like, I think, making a movie or somewhere, and he looks great.
Yeah, they take their shirt off, and I'm like, oh my God, they're like the same age as me, and I'm like, I'm nauseated. I'm like, why can't I like that? But then again, they're rich, they have trainers taking care of them every day,
Yeah. So as Enos and Annie are walking to their car, we get introduced to everyone's favorite prophet of doom, Crazy Ralph, and he's, when you think of Friday the 13th, other than like Mrs. Voorhees, I think Crazy Ralph is right up there with her. He's
the kind of the, I wouldn't say, I guess Dorf would be more the comic relief in this film, but Ralph is definitely, and then they brought him back in part 2, which was 5 years later, and he's still in the same outfit. Go figure.
And he's also the town pervert too. And that would have been cool if they added a young Ralph in the Crystal Lake series too. He saw something that fucked him up pretty good, and that's why he's a drunk and he's warning people about Crystal Lake. And then Enos, and that's when Enos he's driving Annie. I don't know why he never drove her to camp. Like he very well could have, but then we never would have gotten death.
I guess he was, that was his, his morning breakfast, and he's probably doing some runs.
Yeah,
and, he had a route that he had to stick to. I think he was it was an oil delivery back then.
Yep.
And I guess that would have taken him out of the way at that point.
Yeah. So that's when, he goes into the history of why camp was shut down, and he wants her to quit. Quit. I can't quit. And then, after she gets dropped off, we're introduced to our other camp counselors. We got Ned, Marcy, and Jack, and to some great and a quick introduction, and then back to Annie. She's walking, and then she gets picked up by someone in a Jeep. It's funny how, like, and then she's talking about how she's going to be the camp cook, and I'll be cooking for like 50 kids or so. But she tells Enos she doesn't like when people call them kids, like, because they're not goats or something like that. But then the driver passes where she needs to go, and I like how she does like I think you just missed my my spot there. And then
The music, that's what's great about the soundtrack. The music, dun-dun, it changes really fast, you know,
Yeah.
or added, you know, because I
Yeah.
think no music, she's just in conversation. But to talk about that scene when Annie jumps out of the car, she did her own stunt in that scene. And when
I
I
couldn't afford someone to dress like her. I mean, I'm surprised like Tom Savini or someone else didn't do it. You know.
she did a good, I mean, when you watch it, she did a good, you know, I don't know how fast they were going, but she did a good you know, tuck and roll in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, that's like our first official kill in this timeline, and it's you don't want to watch it. You don't want to watch any of these kills on Blu-ray or 4K because you see everything. You got to watch it either standard DVD or VHS to get that full effect. That's when we get
Or
the first.
even if it's being played on TV, it's still safe, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, Tom Savini is just the master, as and I'm sure you can agree when it comes to practical.
Yeah.
And that was what was mind blowing about this film, because you know, with that in part two, seeing it for the first time. I mean, I don't think it was my first slasher I saw, but you know, when it came to seeing the kills, the presence of the camera time to and take it in was long. Like, you know, it was like, oh wow, that was brutal, because in most of those kills back then in the 80s, they were so fast. You're like, what the hell just happened? I have to rewind again and freeze it, which most of us did, you know, to see it. But with Friday the 13th OG, you know, he spent a lot of camera time with the blood flowing and you know, and what have you. So that was pretty intense for the time and era, you know.
Yeah, sorry if I got distracted. I don't know what my upstairs neighbors are doing.
Well, they're having a good time.
Sounds like they're moving a piano. I don't know what the hell's going on up there. Yeah. So then, after she gets her demise, our newer counselors are pulling in to camp, and that's when we get the first image of Steve Christy looking like he just rolled out of a porn movie with his cut off jorts, his thermal socks and his boots, and you know, the neckerchief or whatever. We meet Alice, and then eventually we meet what was Harry Crosby's Bill. So we then
you know, talk about the characters. I gotta say, you know, and I hate to reveal this about being a fan, but Alice was very annoying. Like, you know, like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was the tone, the voice, or what.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because apparently some of the cast members didn't really like Adrienne at first, because
really?
I think she was. Yeah, I read it in Crystal Lake Memories, like the definitive, because I think she was the first one to get hired, or she knew Sean, or you know, something like to that effect.
Oh, was it?
And she didn't stay on site with them. She slept at the hotel.
They sheltered her. And it was Sean and his wife that kept her away from them for some.
She didn't sleep like in town. She slept back like at the hotel or something. And, you know what? You know, it is what it is. Like you know, Adrienne King's is a great person. She's great to the fans, but I really couldn't stand Alice.
You know what? And of all the years, and I had the opportunity to meet her last year, I just she's never been on my top list. And even though the original is my favorite, there was, you know, I mean, there's so many others, but it's not her. It was just the character that was very, you know, the way it was the voice, the tone.
Yeah.
You know, she played a great final girl. Let's be real. I mean, the segments of the fighting and what have you with Pamela.
She was a goody at the beginning, but then when push came to shove, it was will they say flight or fright? I think that's what it is, or something like that. Flight. So you know, she came into herself, and she is a fan favorite, and it makes you wonder if she didn't have a stalker, how part two would have been. You know, would there be a Ginny? You know,
exactly. And there's always been other mixed stories about that too, about money and her management holding out for way too much, and
Yeah.
because she didn't know that she was going to be cut, it was going to be cut down so
Yeah.
much. I think up until the day of filming. If I
Yep. Yep. So, as she's doing the world's worst hammering job, we're alluded that her and Steve have some type of romantic thing going on, and
I think it was a one night stand. I think
yeah.
he moves on her.
Yeah,
You know?
and he looked like he was 40, but he was probably like 25 in this day, in that day and age. But she's an artist, and I just like to seem like, do I look like that? You did last night. So,
Well, the thing is-
obviously something happened and he wants her to stay, but she wants to go back home.
Now, my understanding is him being the owner of Camp Crystal Lake, it was closed down for a long time, as we know. And I guess he inherited it from his parents, family. It was handed down to him.
Yeah.
So I think it was his last big push to try to make it a go again.
Yeah.
And open it.
And I wonder if he maybe used his power. I'm the owner of the camp. You're going to be my conquest, But they also alluded that she liked Bill.
Yeah.
And they also gave Bill as a red herring too, when he killed the snake.
Yeah.
He's holding a machete, and it was kind of like a long little bit of a pause,
like he enjoyed it,
Right, yeah. So they introduced him.
They did kill a real snake for that scene.
Which it's just sad too, because the snake wrangler's like, they killed my pet. Which obviously wouldn't happen in today's day and age. It'd be a digital snake. But it's back then it was different. Look at Cannibal Holocaust. I watched that once and I'll never watch it again. So I wanted to see the killing of the people. I wasn't there to see the killing of the animals.
The turtle was the most brutal.
Oh, God, let's not even talk about that. So after Steve leaves, they're swimming, and we're introduced to Kevin's bacon bits, and Ned does a fake drown just because he wants to make out with Brenda. I thought Brenda was probably.
He made that clear. He wanted to hook up with anybody when he got to camp.
Yeah.
He was a horn dog.
He was. And I always thought Brenda was very pretty, she looks like if they were to remake Friday the 13th, say 20 years ago, what's her Jennifer Garner could play Brenda. That's who she reminds me of, young Jennifer Garner.
Very girl next door, very wholesome.
Yes. Yeah. So
we lost many years ago, but she passed of cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
So
we all know what happens with the snake scene, and then Marcy was like, well, at least we know what's for dinner. And then they hit her with the pillow. And then we're introduced to everyone's favorite local cop, Officer Dorf. Who looked like he was 40, but he was in his late 20s.
Yeah, great guy. As you know, his name was Jason. I still talk to him via email on occasion, and he's always asking, you doing anything else? You write anything else? Is there anything you add me into? And he's a real sweetheart of a man. Working with him, meeting with him, being a fan of the franchise and especially the film. I remember the first introduction that I had with him. It was at a diner in Hell's Kitchen, and I brought the script. And I had a conversation with him because, he is retired, but something that, he pops up that he shows interest in. He's done some of these side horror movies, direct to video, and I laid on the line. I said, we're not going to make a lot of money off this. I said, this is a passion project. I said, me being a huge fan, and I explained the story, and having lunch with him, and sitting there in a booth, his drink of choice, I'll never forget. He's a big a vitamin water guy.
Okay.
Vitamin water. Yeah. And the diner, they knew him as a regular.
Okay.
which was yeah, they're like, hey Ron, because he literally lived across the street from it.
Oh, okay.
So
So
he
what was
invited.
that feeling your very first time meeting him? Like, wow, this is a guy I've seen 100 times.
Yeah,
You know?
well, I had been talking to him for a little while. He's not big on the phone. He'd rather text at that time
No.
and email. So it was a lot of back and forth. But when I finally met him, and I was like, I had to take it in. I said, "You'll have to give me a moment, Ron." I said, "This is I'm kind of like starstruck here."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a regular New Yorker like you, and then this and that. Like, yeah, I get. But like Lauren Marie Taylor, getting to know him, you forget that he's this great actor from one of your favorite movies, and he was. He came back to me. He's like, "I want to do it. I want to play the part, but I want to make it mine." I said, "Absolutely." I said, "All I ask you to do is if you can." Relay a few of the old one-liners from the first movie, but make it yours, and we put him in the uniform, and he didn't have many takes. I think it was like one or two, and that was it. I think the hardest thing was for him was pumping that shotgun in the
Yeah.
movie. But
Yeah.
fantastic guy. He's got to be close to 70 now.
He still looks good though. Keeps in shape. He would be someone I would love to have on the show, but I know he's not real tech savvy. Like he would be fun to talk to. I like talking to.
Well, there's
old
I think
school
there's a few
Hollywood.
of our friends like that have had him on, and he will watch your podcast, and he's very anti foul language.
Yeah,
he does, and I get
he's
it.
old school. Yeah.
I get it. And we don't really talk like that. We'll say shit and F once in a while, but it's in context. It's not like we're dropping F bombs left and right.
Yeah, like watching him, and his name was Jason. Like he just gave me like Clint Eastwood vibes, like Dirty Harry. Yeah, he was like a no gruff sheriff.
Yeah, so, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And then he came to the premiere, which was sweet of him. Thanks to
Stacy and Chris. Yeah.
But yeah. So Officer Dorff, definitely the comic relief of the movie. And everybody loved his lines in that movie, and to think he was added late into the movie.
Yeah, because he wasn't in the original script. Sean put him in there.
Right. Yeah. And if you listen to Victor Miller, he didn't like that part of the movie.
No. And it's funny too. I got to meet his stunt double for the guy that was riding the bike. He came he came to the Blairstown convention back in 2022. He came like late in the day, and because I was talking to the alumni like towards the end of the day. He lives like somewhere like outside of town.
Oh my god.
So when Ron was in town, like Ron invited him to come out, so it was very nice.
That's cool.
Looks just like you would never know. He's just like an average looking guy. Yeah. And actually,
well, he was a stunt man.
Not even. He was just a guy that had that bike and rode it.
Oh, he rode it.
Yeah. And actually, BJ Crowder found him because BJ searches all the people you wouldn't think of. And when BJ was in town for one Friday 13th, he reached out to him previously and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in. I'm a big fan of Friday 13th, and I want to get as many people on my poster as possible." He's like, "You want my autograph?" It says the obscure, which I think is pretty cool.
I mean, that shows you how much of a diehard fan he is. I mean, it just makes you get that,
Yeah. And he just got this really cool, I think, belt buckle, Camp Novi Bosco belt buckle. Because he finds them on eBay, and some of that stuff isn't cheap either.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, it's all vintage.
Yeah.
So I guess it was a Boy Scout belt buckle.
Yeah. All right. So after I guess they had steak for dinner, everyone's off doing their own thing. Marcy and Jack are walking along the lake shore, and then the favorite line, like the thunder comes in, is like, "Oh, the wind shifted 120 degrees. It's gonna come down this valley like a son of a gun."
That's what I loved about that scene. Marcy's story was very, very creepy and very
prophetic.
She was one of the better actresses in that film.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and if you watch her in the memoirs and the behind the scenes stories, she had a lot of theater background, you know, Marcy.
Yeah.
I forget. I'm drawing a blank on the what's her name?
Janine Taylor.
Taylor. She had a lot of theater background, you know.
Yeah. So you know,
that was the only sex scene that we had in that movie, really.
Yeah. And that continues the rule. You can't have sex and can't light a doobie up because you get your demise.
Kevin Bacon smoking the J after
you know, and then a lot of people like, okay, so then we got Ned. He goes into the cabin before him, and you see like a shadowy of a figure.
Yeah.
And
well, if you look hard, and we've watched this enough, you do see the blood. You do see the blood on the mattress above him before it even drips. Right. Because there's a moment when the camera pans up when she's getting up out of the bed, the blood is stained before it drips on his forehead, and he goes like,
But now people are saying like, oh, that's Betsy Palmer there. I'm like, dude, no, she only did the scenes at the very end. That's not her.
That's not true, Brian. If you watch it in the 4K, in the high quality now, somebody just debunked it. And it was recently shown on, I can't figure out what page it was, but it is her. And she's got a one of the rain hoods on that Brenda wore. Remember?
Oh, okay. I'll have to pop in my 4K and zoom in. Then
you can see it's her because you see her have it on and you see her face, and then she turns and goes into the cabin. It's definitely
okay.
But back then the quality you couldn't see it.
Right. Yeah. And it's just funny how people like when Brenda thinks she sees someone in the woods, people are still trying to find someone in the woods. I'm like, there's no one there.
I love how, you hear, help me.
Yeah. And obviously that was Mrs. Voorhees because she was, I mean, well, it was a kid or someone doing it, but you come to find out later on that she's schizophrenic.
She's luring them out with that. And Brenda took the bait, She's got
the off-screen kill. And then Tom Savini goes through the window, playing her. We get
which a lot of the fans like to say, "Oh, that was Jason. He helped her." Like guys, you can't just let it go and say it's a movie at that point. No, maybe she hung her up on the tree and gave her some swinging momentum. And
she did have rope around her. So
Pam worked up at that campground. I'm sure she had her way with like tying a proper knot.
So who do you think had the worst death so far, Annie or Jack?
Oh. The hatchet was painful, but Jack
the hatchet was quick death.
Yeah,
Annie, she gets her neck sliced, and then Jack gets the puncture of the arrow.
It's got to be Jack for me.
Yeah, it's a slow and grueling.
Because Bill was off screen too. We just seen him impaled with arrows, right?
Yes, and one in the nuts too.
And he wasn't the one even having sex.
No, he was just a goody. He just wanted to make sure everything was painted nice.
Yeah.
And I don't think we really saw. Did we see how Ned got killed? Was his neck sliced or
his neck was slit?
Okay.
Yeah, also split. Yeah, and he was on the top bunk while those two were having boom boom.
Yeah. And then I like how they showed Brenda being like she's not the goody because she suggested strip poker. Yeah. Hey, I think there's some grass in that drawer.
I didn't expect that from all the people,
Yeah.
I would imagine she got an arrow too because she was on the range on
the archery range. Yeah, I think she probably got a couple arrows. And then we're at the diner and Steve's having his whatever he's having. I think it costs like $2.25.
5 to 6 hour dinner.
Yeah. And then poor Sandy, she just wanted a night on the town. She got rejected yet again.
Yeah.
She was probably a looker in her day, and she's like 40 working at the diner now.
Yeah, and it's funny. She's like one of my main leads in the Pamela story.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
she's a fiery young redhead
Okay.
in her early 20s in my story.
Okay.
That does friend and becomes a very good confidant
With Pamela.
Pamela. Yeah,
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And then so he gets, he when he gets back to camp, he realizes who it is, and then he probably gets like a machete to the stomach, and
No,
then she
no,
just
it was her knife. It was a knife because remember
a
when he
knife.
falls from the tree and he's swinging, he's still impaled with a
Oh, you
knife.
know what? I never even noticed that. Okay, I
Yeah,
just see him. I always focus on him swinging. So
yeah,
okay,
is above his heart sternum, like right in there. Yeah, she impaled him with a knife. Yeah,
okay,
and
okay.
he knew her because he worked at I guess his parents.
Yeah, so he was a kid when she was the cook.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Dude, what are you doing
um,
in this mess?
yeah. And then we finally get the introduction of Mrs. Voorhees, a friend of the old friend of the Christies,
Yeah,
and just Betsy. Just once she was on scene, she controlled that scene. Even like from like, and I think they were real slaps, or they were like theater slaps when she
yeah.
was hitting Adrian.
Complaining,
um,
Sean, she's really smacking me. And Pamela and Betsy Palmer's like, well, what do you want? That's what we do on Broadway. They actually do theater slaps. She's like, and Sean had to say, Betsy, calm down on it.
mhm.
You can pull back a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, the fight scene was so well choreographed. And if you watch the broken oar and the
Mhm,
machete,
mhm.
I don't know how they did that without anyone getting hurt because unless the blade was dull or plastic,
Well, I'm
but
sure it was dull, and the or might have been already pre-cut.
broken.
Yeah,
There was a
yeah.
lot of
Well,
there
when
was a
she clocked Betsy like with the frying pan.
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And she
Um,
gave her the coochie hit with the butt of the shotgun. Yeah, I was like,
um,
damn.
yeah. I
She
mean,
went
even the beach scene when
down like
Betsy takes Adrian's head and she's pounding her on the ground, and
that.
that's another cool thing. Like we're at the beach at the lake,
Yeah.
right where it happened. It's just like you get that fuzzy feeling in your stomach
Yeah.
at these cool
Yeah.
scenes, and we're walking on them. And then the to top it off, the slow mo. Like I like how like Betsy gets up, she's like takes a sigh, and then she sees Alice with the machete and
Yeah.
slices
Yeah, 'cause,
her.
it's done so well. A woman of her age, not being able to run from that, it just makes sense because she's gone through such a wallop with Alice and catching her breath, where Alice is the younger one and
Yeah.
getting a foothold on her. And the decapitation is probably like the first one I saw on horror films. They've
Mhm.
been done a million times since then, but that was brutal. Even the blood coming out.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then frightening part where she's still looking for her head.
Yeah.
That's frightening because I'm sure Savini, being an ex-military, I think he was in Vietnam as a photographer for Nam, if I remember.
Yep. And yep.
I'm sure he saw a lot of shit.
Oh, that's kind of how he based everything off. All the footage of the soldiers
Napalm.
dead. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure he's
Um,
a lot of sleep over that over the years.
yeah. And then, I love the guitar music when she gets into the canoe. Like if I knew how to play guitar, I would love to strum that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just the guitar and the drums and the beat. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we get our Carrie moment. We get young Jason coming out, or which would
Which was
be
a double whammy of an ending because you got the decapitation. You're like, God damn, it can't get any worse than that. And then, like you
Yeah.
said, which Sean took from Carrie was the hand coming out of the ground. In Carrie was Jason jumping out of the lake.
Yeah. And which, they would do this type of thing for the next two movies. They stopped after part 3 with like the Fox ending, and which I never understood part 3 you have Pamela coming out of the lake, but she still has her head.
Yeah. I
But
remember the continuity for 3, and I know there's a lot of people that love 3 because you get the hockey mask for the first time, and they love Richard in that costume and what have you. But, for me, and and I've explained this to you, continuity is so important for me when it comes to a film, and none of these films have continuity. If they are, they're very, very vague. They're very, very vague.
yeah, yeah.
Because that was just about the making of the money back then,
Yeah. And like as when they made this film, they didn't even think there was going to be a part 2.
No.
So
No. And then they really had to cook up, even when part 2 came out, and they said, well, Jason's age and this and that, and and I think we both agree on this, that was all in Alice's head. It was the story that was relayed to her by Pamela. And her, coming out of that state of, plus she was being drugged all the time to relax. That was just a dream state,
Yeah.
And up to part 2, Jason's well into his 30s or 40s, I guess it would have been.
I think he was born in the 40s, so he was actually going to be. I think he's like 77 now.
45.
So, yeah. But yeah, so and then
it would make Pamela in her 90s in the original film, because if you think about if Jason was born in 1945, Pamela had to have been in her 20s. So I'm bad at math, but I'm like, wouldn't she have been a lot older than what we saw in the 80s? Yeah.
Well, she could have been born. Let's just say she was born 19. Yeah, so technically she would have been like in her close to late 50s. So, Betsy did look.
Yeah, I guess she pulled it off. They pulled it off because they really didn't, like you said, they weren't going to do a part 2. So that continuity, but with part 2, they did a pretty good bang up job with making it feel like if you were going to do the history or the breakdown, which we all do nowadays as fans, to make reality out of fiction. We love to do that, especially I do when I write my stories. I like to know anything canon. I love canon stuff. Especially if it's done well.
Absolutely. All right, so that was our review. We didn't go deep in it because we felt we talked about Friday the 13th enough. So
everybody knows at this point on the channel and friends of ours how we're mostly passionate about the franchise, especially me for this film. We bring it up numerous times in other podcast events or events we go to that I must watch it. If there's a Friday the 13th in the year, I definitely watch it then. Whether it's a marathon that leads up to the 13th, it's definitely number 1 for me. Or I must watch it 2 times a year, I want to say. The OG.
Yeah, same here. Yep.
It is on my top shelf of my favorites of my top 10, and it's always one of my go-tos. When I'm bored, it's either that or Halloween, Christine, Pet Sematary. I love Psycho and The Shining, which we lost Shelley Duvall this week. We're losing a lot.
Did you see that the Stanley Hotel created a little memorial for her, like in the lobby? Yeah. I know. Before we got Shelley, Shelley Duvall. I didn't even know Dr. Ruth was still alive. Richard Simmons, he died literally the day after his 76th birthday, and now Shannon Doherty.
Though I think he was fighting something.
I don't know. Well, there was rumors of him being sick, but then there was rumors of like his housekeeper was holding him hostage, like elder abuse. Yeah.
I wonder if that movie's going to come out now that Pauly Shore was.
Did you watch the short he did? It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think that was kind of like an intro video he wanted to show producers or somebody to pick it up.
He mightn't be able to do it now that Richard has passed away. Yeah.
He looked fantastic. I
think watch this be his Brendan Fraser moment.
I don't know about that, but
So, all
Yeah,
right.
you got to see Maxine. I'm still waiting to see Maxine. I saw Longlegs yesterday, which
You saw Long Legs before Maxine.
I know. I don't know why it was more intriguing because it had such a Silence of the Lambs, which was one of my favorites, vibe to it. And when you watch it, you will get some of that feeling, but there's a lot of it makes you think. This film will make you think, especially when it's done and over, about the characters and to see Nicolas Cage in the makeup that he was. It doesn't even look like him at all.
Gotcha.
But it's definitely worth a watch. It's probably one of my top favorite for the summer so far. We'll have to see where Maxine falls into place, but we both liked In a Violent Nature.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a Quiet Place, which is forgettable.
Okay.
Chapter 1 or whatever it is. I saw that. It was okay. Wasn't great. But I think the next one, what do we got? Oh, I can't wait to see Nosferatu.
Yeah, that's I think September or October. Yeah, it looks really good. It kind of looks like a cross between Bram. Oh, what the hell? All right, everyone, and we were going to talk about the upcoming films that we would like to see. However, Dave's phone died. Long live Dave's phone until he charges it. But as always, thank you for everyone that follows us on Facebook and participates in our polls. Please, if you would like for us to do any type of review, send us a message, comment in the YouTube section. We have fun doing these. Maybe we'll do another slasher for the fall, getting ready for the Halloween season, because Halloween is right around the corner. As always, I am Brian, and Dave's in purgatory right now. But this has been another great episode of the Third Channel Home of Horror, and we'll see you next time.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.